Story Time with Dr. Kate Oland. I'm going to continue reading to you out of my favorite fascia reference, Anatomy Trains by Thomas Myers. Today, we are going to start in Appendix 1, a fascial reader, and we're going to talk about definitions. Fascia, in a similar manner to stress, is a medical term that has escaped into the wider culture with a more general meaning. Throughout this book, we have used fascia in its wider sense to discuss its implications. But as with any medical term, fascia has a precise definition, important to maintain for research and applications to pathology. Accompanying terms such as extracellular matrix, connective tissue net, collagenous network, myofascia, and interstitium also need to be differentiated. We start our descent into the geekiness of fascia with a more precise set of definitions. Fascia. We have referred to this body-wide complex throughout as the fascia or the fascial net. In physiotherapy, the word fascia is usually applied more narrowly to the large sheets of woven fabric that invest, surround, and contain muscular tissues particularly. Medically, according to the Fascial Research Congress, a fascia is a sheath, a sheet, or any other dissectable aggregations of connective tissue that forms beneath the skin to attach, enclose, and separate muscles and other internal organs. This is a vague definition. It depends on your dissection skills and how sharp your eyes are as to what constitutes a fascia. Gray's Anatomy complains that the practice of attaching a name to any aggregation that is large enough to dissect is of dubious value. The problem is one of the limitations of human labeling on God's creation. As we argued in Chapter 1, the fascia starts as a whole, lives as a whole, and finishes life as a whole. So, what properties must a part have to get a distinct name? What part of this system merits its own label? The debate on anatomical nomenclature continues and likely will not be settled soon. Fortunately, our goal here is not to decide the naming of the details. Additionally, fascia is so malleable and therefore so variable from person to person, within one person from one to another, or one spot to another. It is a system defined not by anatomical consistency, but by individualized adaptability. Importantly, experience in the dissection lab shows us that any subset of fascia, from the smallest dissectable piece to any large structure you wish to name, loses its form when removed from the body. This is not true in the chemically fixed cadavers used in most modern textbooks and anatomy atlases. Remove a bit of fascia from a standard cadaver and it stays put in the shape it had been when the part of the body was whole, because the fascia got fixed in place with formaldehyde. This author has had the privilege of dissecting untreated tissue cadavers for the last decade without any formaldehyde or other fixative, in a state much closer to living tissue. Remove any bit of untreated tissue, deprive it of its mechanical context, and it reverts to a shapeless blob. Pull on its ends, as would happen in the context of the body, and it takes organized shape again. This property is not evident to those who have worked with embalmed cadavers and the atlases that proceeded from them. Fascial structure is contextual, and it reverts to the formless when deprived of the context. The set of relations to the whole is what matters, and that is what we missed in separating fascia with a blade for these past centuries. It also demonstrates the fascia's constant ability to adjust by creating structure according to the forces of the moment. What if we imagine that instead of using a sharp edge, we immersed an animal or human in some form of detergent or solvent, which washed away all the cellular material and left only the fascial system's fabric of collagen? We would see the entire continuum, from the elastic basal layer of the skin, through the subcutaneous fatty areolar neoprene suit to the thin fibrous tunic surrounding the muscular body, down through the cotton investing the muscles and organs, continuous with the leathery scaffolding for cartilages and bones. Language fails us. Even this description of layers suggests a separation that is not present in your body in vivo. It would be all one network, connected from top to toe, skin to bone, dense in some spots and gossamer in others, but showing both the external and internal shape of the entire body, minus the hair. If we could fix such a preparation in space so that it would not just collapse like a burst balloon, it would be very valuable in showing us this fascial organ as a continuum. Early attempts at just such an image are underway, but are fraught with technical difficulties at the time of this publication. This image would emphasize its uniting, shaping nature, rather than simply seeing it as the walls where separations are made. It is the scientific truth that we start whole and end whole. We are not put together in parts, however convenient and useful these mechanical images are to us. All naming of parts of the body imposes an artificial, human-perceived distinction on an event that is unitary. Since we are at pains in this book to keep our vision on the whole, undivided, ubiquitous nature of this net, we choose to point to its singularity by calling the whole thing fascia. What we mean, though, is perhaps better described as the fascial system. So that was our first definition from Anatomy Trains with Thomas Meyer in Appendix 1. This has been Fascia Story Time with Dr. Kate Oland, and I hope you come back tomorrow to hear a little bit more about this incredible tissue. Happy healing.